Hey LinkedIn, welcome to Business Unusual. This is a live show where we are coming at you from home to talk about the impact coronavirus is having on the way we work. I am Susie Jackson. I'm a news editor at LinkedIn. And throughout the show today, I want to make sure that I hear from you. Drop your comments into the stream. Use the hashtag Business Unusual to post your thoughts, questions, pictures, whatever on LinkedIn. We want this show to be a place where we can all come together, figure this out together. This is an unprecedented time. So let's take this time to be together today. On the show today, we're going to be talking about the impact the virus is having on small businesses. It's a pretty brutal time for small businesses of all stripe. We are going to be hearing from Jordan Dahl, who is my colleague at LinkedIn, who covers small business. She is in there mixing it up with small business owners, patrons, where she's hearing a lot right from the front lines of what's going on in real time. And we'll also be talking to some small business owners directly. There's a coffee roasting company down in Austin, Texas, and the owners are going to be joining us a little bit later in the show. It is a tough time for small business all over the country, all over the world, really. Social distancing is meaning people are staying at home. They're not just running out to shop anymore. Cities and states are increasingly closing bars and restaurants, switching them just to takeout and delivery. Not all businesses are ready to make that switch. Some places are ordering shelter in place. San Francisco started that last week, I believe. New York is considering it. That's where I'm coming to you from. Last night, the state of California, Gavin Newsom telling residents just to stay home. So if things weren't already tough for small businesses trying to figure out how to deal with decreased foot traffic, et cetera, now it's getting even more formal and strict and difficult. It's been brutal for owners, for the staff of these businesses, and for patrons. A lot of people find a community in small business. Maybe there's a coffee shop you go to every morning, a bakery, a boutique where you're always going to buy a special birthday gift for someone. And that's been cut out of our lives right now. So I want to hear from you on this. Are you a small business owner joining us? What are you seeing happening? How are you grappling with some of these really hard decisions? Are you staff of a small business? How do you deal with your own personal needs versus the needs of a business where you're probably really familiar with all the other staff and the ownership? It's probably a close-knit, tight-knit group. If you're a patron of small businesses, come tell us, what businesses are you really hoping make it through? What are you trying to do yourself or thinking about doing or that others can do to help these businesses come through this unprecedented time and see the light on the other side? Already seeing some people in the stream. Alex, Michael, Sarah, thanks so much for being here. Alex saying this is a very trying time and echoing that we are all in this together. In the spirit of being in it together, I'm wearing a t-shirt today of a small business that's near and dear to my heart. This is Beacon Coffee Roasters. They are in Ojai in Ventura, California. That company is owned by some dear friends of mine. I was just on the phone with one of the co-owners last night. Her name is Jen Weir. And this was before Gavin Newsom's announcement that Californians really needed to stay home. It could be a devastating blow to their business. As she was telling me even before that news came to bear, that it's been a really difficult time for them. They are in a really tight community. They've had to think about how to balance the needs of the business with their staff who are like family to them. It's a really, really tough time. It's stressful for a lot of people. So if you're feeling that stress, come here. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it in the comments. I want to hear from you throughout the show. Michael says hello. He says this is very topical and interesting. Thank you. He says he's interested in hearing learnings from the show. So to get started with some of these learnings, let's just see how people are feeling. My colleague Dave is going to pull up this first comment is from Art. He is the owner of Honest Biscuits in Seattle. It's in the Pike Place Market, which is a huge tourist destination. He is talking about the struggle to remain nimble and to adapt. Information is changing hour to hour. Art is trying to imagine a lot of worst case scenarios and work back from there in terms of what to do with the business. He admits that it might be easier to shut down, but he says he keeps pushing it for the employees. He tells us, at least as of this week, we're still open now, selling only takeout and delivery, but they're not really making any money off of this. He's trying to do it just to keep his employees employed. So Art, that is admirable. Thank you for hanging in there for your employees. Next, we'll bring up Allison. She is the owner of a staffing company, and she came to LinkedIn to write an entire article. She had more to say than would fit in even a post. So you can check her article out after the show. But she says, to be honest, she doesn't even know what she is asking for. She says she's never been one to ask for a government handout or bailout. She doesn't want that, but what she does know is she doesn't want her staff and team to suffer. She wants to see small business survive, much like many of us, all of us, I'm going to venture to say, do. She wants to be able to still go to her local clothing boutique, to go to the bakery at the end of all this. Ryan is joining us with a comment from Colorado. He said he's had to close the distillery and tasting room that he that he runs, with a really sobering detail that he shared with us, which is he just recently re-signed his lease, and that lease included a 35% rent hike. So that is a big jump, even in the best of times. And it's going to kick in the next couple of weeks. He says it's effective on April 12th. So not only does he have a new lease starting, God, perhaps even for a year or more at a really steep increase in rent, but it's starting soon and right at the same time that he's had to close his whole business. So Ryan, our hearts go out to you. We wish you the best in trying to figure this out. Janie also owns her own small business. She has an art boutique and a painting party company in San Antonio, Texas. Paint nights have been so huge the last couple of years. It's been such a great way for employees to bond, to get together. But Jane says no one is shopping for arts and crafts at this time, which she finds completely understandable. If you're just joining us now, I'm Susie Jackson. This is Business Unusual. We are here talking about the way coronavirus is impacting the way we work. And we just had a comment up from a boutique owner in Texas who says that no one's shopping for arts and crafts at this time. She understands that people have other things on their mind. They are thinking, like Ryan is, about rent, about how to get supplies, about how to hunker down for however long this takes. But something I thought was kind of heartening was that on LinkedIn, Tony came and replied to Janie, and she actually thought differently. She thought it was a great time to market an arts and crafts company. She points out that no one wants to spend all their time cleaning out closets and finishing their to-do lists, which reminds me that I certainly have a few closets that I could probably be cleaning out now, but I identify with that sentiment too, because I have two small kids. I think we're going to be looking for things to do as we're spending increasing amounts of time inside. The next comment here is from Kyle, and he runs a business catering marketplace. So business catering, as you can imagine, is taking a really hard hit here, as employees are increasingly, if not already, working from home for the last couple of weeks. Some are starting to do it now. But Kyle's business, did a lot of lunch catering for big pharma companies, and they're not coming into the office anymore. So he doesn't actually have a delivery business to pivot to. There is no takeout that he can do. So his business is really suffering. And to look more closely at what's happening to businesses, to bars and restaurants specifically, I wanted to bring on my colleague, Jordan Dahl. Jordan, hello, how are you?
Hi, Susie. I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay. Jordan covers small business extensively for LinkedIn. She has been mixing it up in the comments, and doing a lot of reporting, hearing directly from a lot of small business owners. Jordan, I just want to ask you, what are you seeing out there? What's going on for food and beverage right now?
It's devastating for food and beverage right now. This is really the most challenging time that this industry has ever gone through. The National Restaurant Association just came out with a report the other day. They estimate that 5 to 7 million jobs are going to be lost in the next 3 months. And to put that a little bit into perspective, that is 1/3 of this industry's workforce. And they are actually calling for the federal government to give $145 billion with a B of funding to help these restaurants. And they say that if that doesn't come through, then many of these restaurants that make up really the local fabric of our lives are not going to make it.
Wow, those are some really, really big numbers. It's devastating is, I think, an apt word. I just wanted to jump over to the stream for a couple moments. We have Crystal saying that she has a local restaurant donating half of all gift card sales right now. She thought that was very sweet. Donating that to their employees. We've got Sarah saying that focusing on the customer and staying connected with them will really help businesses figure out these new norms. But Jordan, what are you seeing about new norms? What are small business and restaurant and bar owners talking about? What is their normal right now?
They're still figuring it out, to be honest. As with all of us, we are living in a new normal and we are adapting as everything seems to change, really on a day-by-day basis. And a lot of that depends upon where you are. So in San Francisco and in New York, that's going to mean you're completely shutting down your business with the exception of delivery. Some restaurants have been able to adapt and they've been able to change their menu to be more delivery friendly. Some of them are asking their wait staff to change their jobs and be drivers instead, and that has worked for some. There are other people, though, who their business model just cannot adapt to delivery, or they're not making enough money out of it. And that has been a really big thing. But for people who are ordering delivery, if they can, they should really order directly from the restaurant rather than through some of these third-party apps. Uber is waiving all delivery fees, and Grubhub has stopped collecting commission fees, which is really great. But there are others that are still collecting those, and they can be really high. I mean, we're talking 20, 25, 30%, which is being taken directly out of the restaurant. So it's really important to give as much of that funding as possible to the restaurant.
That is a good reminder for us all, Jordan. Thank you. Once again, if you're just joining us in the stream, I'm Susie Jackson. I'm a news editor here at LinkedIn. We are talking today about the impact that coronavirus is having on small business. I'm joined by our small business editor, Jordan Dahl. Looking over at the stream for a second, we have Eric reminding us of something really important too, which is that we're talking directly about these business owners, the staff, patrons. He's talking about the ancillary businesses that support restaurants and bars, the food equipment services, for instance. He's saying those companies are in the same boat as the restaurants. So if their supply of work is drying up as restaurants are shutting down and not needing new equipment, not needing cleaning services, that kind of thing. So everything in the story has such huge ripple effects. The things that are easy for us to see are the things that are more on the surface of our everyday lives, dining out, going to a favorite coffee shop. But even beneath that, there's even more that's being impacted that we're not seeing. Jordan, I want to ask you, what should restaurants be doing right now? We've seen on LinkedIn, some and various other platforms, some are trying to set up funds. Some are saying that they are encouraging the sale of gift cards or merchandise. Is there anything more formal in terms of relief that's coming? What should they be doing and trying to think about in terms of keeping their heads above water right now?
Yeah, so it's a great question. The biggest problem right now for business owners is cash flow. President Trump released $2 million to the Small Business Administration a few days back, and those are being distributed in the form of disaster relief loans. So the crux there, though, is unless your business is located in a state that has declared a state of emergency, you are not eligible for that. The Senate is still debating their stimulus package. There's a couple of aspects of that, particularly around direct payments to Americans, that they are debating. So far, there is a $300 million earmarked in that bill that would be given in loans to small businesses. But we're still waiting on that to be formalized and for that to be distributed. So we're looking at least a week or two before those funds are really going to be getting into the pockets of business owners. In the meantime, for those who already have loans, now is a great time to reach out to your lender and see what options are available. I was talking to a caterer the other day, and she caters tamales to NBA games here in the Bay Area. And the same week that the NBA suspended its season, her loan payment was due. And so she called her lender to ask if she could have leniency, because for her, that meant 2, 3, maybe 4 more days of being able to pay her employees. And those are really the kind of sacrifices and questions that business owners are grappling with right now.
Yeah, I mean, in 3 and 4 more days in the long term isn't very much, but I think everything is day to day right now, and those 3 or 4 more days might be crucial for those people to have some buffer to figure out how they're going to provide for themselves.
100%. And the other thing to really be aware of is that predatory lenders are coming out of the woodwork right now, and it's really important to stay away from them. We're talking cash advance loans, loan sharks. They can come at you during times of crisis where it can be pretty enticing to have cash in your pocket right now, but it is going to cost you so much more in the future. And so it's worth the pain of waiting for some of these more traditional venues of loans.
That is such great and timely advice, Jordan. And I'm going to ask you after we're done talking if you're going to go ahead and and put a link in the stream, because I know you've been talking a lot with small business lenders about different advice, and I think that the folks watching today might get some real value out of that. So please go ahead and share that link in the stream afterwards, so that everyone can see directly from lenders what they're saying to watch out for and what to do. Before I let you go, I have a couple more questions. I know that you lived and worked in Beijing for 5 years, and that even before that, there were these mass closings and alterations of the restaurant business in this country. That Chinese restaurants in particular were feeling a certain kind of pressure. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yes. Chinese restaurants and Chinese stores in general were really feeling a lot of strain, really since January when we started talking about coronavirus and the impact it was having on China. There's an unfortunate amount of xenophobia out there right now, and Chinese restaurants and business owners are really getting the brunt of that. Right now, they're also suffering even further of their shutdown. They can only have delivery. So I want to say directly, you are no more likely to get coronavirus from ordering from a Chinese restaurant as you are from any other. And for me, at least, Chinese food is comfort food, which I think we could all use a little bit more of right now. So I'm going to be ordering some dumplings, some fried rice, and kung pao chicken. We should really be giving all of these communities as much love as we can.
That's a great that's your personal plan to try and help out just a little bit. Can you talk to us any more about other ways people are trying to help? Are you seeing people jump in to help small businesses in certain ways that are effective or at least worth trying?
Yeah, so you mentioned gift cards. That is a really great way of helping these businesses. It puts cash in their hands directly. There is a new initiative called the Dining Bond Initiative, and that got launched a couple days back. And it is a conglomerate of restaurants. Any restaurant can join, but consumers buy gift cards for 25% off, and they can use them in the next month or two, or depending upon the restaurant's policies. And obviously, that's probably going to be changing as this situation develops. But that is a really big way of helping. In terms of helping business owners outside of the restaurant and bar industry, you can prepay for services that you know you're going to use. So talking about going to a nail salon or getting your hair cut, your dentist, whatever that may be, prepaying for those services, again, is going to put cash in their hands. And as I mentioned before, if you are ordering delivery, check in with the restaurant directly first and see if you can help give them 100% of those 100% of those profits. And the other thing is, please tip your delivery drivers well. They are risking their lives to deliver us food and keep these restaurants going. So please be generous.
Those are great pieces of advice, Jordan, and they're actually echoing things that we're seeing in the stream right now. Sarah echoed that same thing about creating prepaid promotions so that businesses can offer their customers something to do, that they can increase the cash flow a little bit. Bob says, yes, order out, save your local restaurants. He says, remember to tip well, too. As you say, these delivery people are putting themselves at risk to try and help themselves stay employed, to help their businesses stay open, to help us eat, and to help everyone stay safe. So remember that, tip well. As a former waitress, now more than ever, just tip well.
Yeah.
Jordan, thank you so much for joining us. Stick around backstage with any more stream questions for you. I'd love you to be here to answer them, but it's been great to have you.
Happy to. Thanks for having me.
Great. As we were talking, Jordan and I saw another comment in the stream here from Zachary. He says he owns a glass company, and he's seeing a huge decrease in sales as well. Customers are putting residential window replacement at the end of list of priorities. We heard that earlier in the crafting example, but I can imagine that home repairs aren't the first thing on anyone's list. But Zachary, hang in there. Maybe as people are spending more and more time at home, and there seems to be safe ways to do it, maybe that business will pick up as people want to freshen up their spaces, something like that. I hope is a silver lining. Now I want to bring in our next set of guests. These are some business owners who are right here on the front lines right now. Thank you for joining us. This is Blake Thomas and Helen Schaefer. They are the owners of Tiny House Coffee Roasters in Austin, Texas. Blake, Helen, thank you for being here. The weather looks pretty nice out there. Are you sitting outside?
We are, so please excuse any birds chirping that you hear. This is our new office.
Yeah. Well, I think birds chirping might be a welcome sound, especially for people who are stuck indoors. So thank you for offering us that little bit of nature with this interview.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to have you here. I think that you guys are responding in real time to this crisis in some creative ways. And I'm really excited to hear what you've been doing. First, I would love to start with hearing you describe what your business is normally and what has changed recently. I mean, it's changing minute to minute, but give us a sense of what Tiny House does normally and then what's been going on lately.
Yeah, so we started Tiny House Coffee Roasters when we came back from Nicaragua, where we worked with coffee farmers. And we actually buy directly from these small producers, double the fair trade price. And we really carved out a marketplace for ourselves here by selling this coffee directly to businesses in the form of cold brew kegs. So we had Facebook, Dell computers in our repertoire. And so that was a huge part of our business.
Yeah, and as we saw from one of our earlier, who is a corporate caterer, that business has all but dried up in the last couple of weeks. As we're talking, I think we're looking at a video here of the keg. Well, we'll come back to it. Okay, of the corporate keg business. So those are not beer kegs, everyone. That's cold brew. A lot of grateful tech workers drink a lot of cold brew on tap. But now, where does it go? These people are all working from their homes. How has your business been able to change to respond to this really rapid swing?
Right. So yeah, as Helen was mentioning, our on the back of a office cold brew delivery service. So, as everything started to unfold and workers started to transition from the office, we really took a step back and started to think about, what are our core competencies as a business? And it's really, putting cold brew on tap and bringing the cold brew to you, either in the office or now at your house. So for the first time ever, we're delivering those cold brew boxes direct to homes in the Austin area. It's a new program. It seems to be working pretty well. Really, our messaging around it is trying to hustle alive. Just because we're at home, that doesn't mean we can't have that same, entrepreneurial spirit and energy that kind of radiates through the office. We can create that same space, in our homes.
Yeah, and another part of that is our cafe that we just recently had to close down. And that cafe was based in an area where there's a lot of foot traffic from people going to and from work. And so we've had to furlough about 6 employees. And we're looking for other ways of funding them through grant applications, through small business loans. But Texas has not yet been declared a state of emergency, so we're not quite eligible for those loans yet. So we're really just scraping the world for any sort of source of funding that we can get to help keep these employees that aren't in our cafe, give them some sort of income.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the cafe. I think if I give Dave a chance to pull up some video that you guys shot of the cafe, it's a really beautiful space. And you've said you've had to lay off some employees, and that's the first time that you've had to deal with that in the history of your business. I think a lot of other small business owners are in the same position now and really struggling with what's the right thing to do for keeping the business open, for keeping staff employed, for keeping it all in balance. A lot of small business owners, maybe they're going to stop drawing a salary themselves to try and give the business that much more time to help the other employees. Just talk to me about really the emotional and tactical decision making that went into having to do these layoffs.
Yeah, so for us watching this disaster unfold, we were thinking, how long can we go on? We already don't really take salaries for ourselves. Everything we get goes right back into the business. And we really had a lot of pride in ourselves for paying our baristas, one of the top of all the coffee shops in Austin. And then so as we started watching sales trickle down and health warnings go up, it was a really, really hard decision for us to decide to close the cafe. But we did it for the health of our employees. We did it for the health of this country and the world at large. And we wanted to make sure that after all this is done, our employees actually had a job to come back to. So operating how we were, just want to be sustainable. So even if the short term we were going to get them a week more of pay, we would have crumbled as a business. And as now it's already, we are really looking on how we can keep our company going.
Yeah, we've got an idea here from the stream for you. Sarah says, what if you convince the companies that you used to supply to pay for lunch for their employees for the day? and then you can slide in there with some cold brew to keep them productive. I'm sure you're hearing a lot of suggestions like that from in your own locale, but can you tell us some of those? What are some ideas that people have that maybe don't sound like they're going to work now that you might try in the future, or just like what are some of these? You were talking about hustle, Blake. What are some of the ways that you're trying to hustle through this?
Okay. Well, I mean, one thing for us, I talked about core competencies. We have an excellent fleet of delivery, both personnel and vehicles. So one thing we've done is kind of reach out to the community and say, hey, we're going to do everything we can to keep these trucks on the road and keep going. Is anyone out there having issues, bringing product to market, or does anyone out there have something that they want to bring to the home consumer? And just putting yourself out there and letting the world at large know what you're doing, and you never know. I mean, there might be an opportunity at hand. We're exploring a few right now. As far as like the other hustle goes, it's pretty amazing to see what some of the other cafes in town are doing. I mean, you're seeing GoFundMe pages. You're seeing the use of Venmo to create kind of virtual tip jars, which is so cool, and it gives patrons of these cafes an opportunity to continue to support the baristas that they've grown to know and love. So it's pretty cool what's going on out there.
Venmo for tipping is really cool. I hadn't heard that yet. Thank you for sharing that. Another idea coming at you from the stream that I think is great and leads into that idea of community. Julie says, hey, I have an idea. When you deliver food, beer, in your case, coffee, etc., offer a live link to that customers and regulars can connect with one another. We're going to have an episode next week talking about events and connection going online. A lot of people are doing video conference calls over cocktail hour, etc. So this idea says, hey, why don't you gather some of the locals who are normally convening in your cafe during the day in that beautiful space that you showed us, and let them do it virtually. So I'm not sure that if you have time to figure out the tech behind that right now, but I think that could be an interesting idea to keep the sense of community going.
Right.
Last question.
Yeah. No, it's.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say we've kicked around the idea of like kind of a virtual, cheers, but with coffee. Just both for a little bit of mental sanity, and then also trying to create a space where we can come together and bounce ideas off one another as coffee drinkers, as business owners, as whoever.
Yeah, sanity is a key word in these times. Before I let you go, I want to ask you, is there any advice that we haven't touched on already that you would like to share with other small business owners?
I think one thing I'd kind of just echo what Jordan was saying, and just really reach out to, your vendors, your creditors, just, look for opportunities to save, and a lot of these people might be a little more well positioned to offer help in these tough times. So just it's tough. It's a tough dance. I mean, we also have vendors that we need to pay our invoices, and then there are outstanding invoices that we are potentially going to have to collect, and it's this very delicate dance of being a good partner to others that are also in need, and kind of reaching out to those that might be able to help you.
Yes, I think that makes a lot of sense. Like we were talking about earlier, there's just ripple effects everywhere here. And there is a movie theater down the street from my house, and they've put up on the marquee, they say, be excellent to everyone. And I think that's great advice for anyone in small business, but really anyone in the world right now. Is we all need a lot of patience with each other as we figure out what's going on. It's happening all at the same time to everyone. Blake and Helen, I want to thank you so much for joining us, and stick around backstage in case we have any more questions up in the stream for you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks.
Great. Bob is back in the stream. He says, don't forget the toilet paper. He doesn't want to run out of coffee. Oh, excuse me. He says, forget the toilet paper. He doesn't need that. He just doesn't want to run out of coffee. So Bob, you might need to reorient those priorities, but good to know that we've got some coffee lovers who are joining us. I forgot to ask Blake and Helen if they know my friends in California. The coffee world isn't all that big. But community, as we know, is stretching everywhere and being affected by all of this. We will be back on Tuesday with another episode of Business Unusual. Find us here coming at you from the LinkedIn editors page at noon, Tuesday through Friday. Thank you so much to everyone who was part of the broadcast. Thank you to Jordan. Thank you to Blake and to Helen. Be nice to each other out there. Stay safe. Have a great weekend.